move it ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reynolds, and appreciate all the feedback. So looking up here at committee members, I see Mr. Balich would like to speak. Mr. Balich.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're explaining that's just a plan, it's not written in stone, but I wanted to make sure it was done correctly. And everybody understands that when we vote for the plan, it's not like we're putting it in stone. So all the times that we voted in the past for the plan, it could change. And which it did with 143rd Street. It changed drastically. So I asked the speaker if we can, after, I think it was 2 months, 1 month ago, or 2 months ago, I forget which it was, but don't matter. We were arguing about that same thing. You came up with changeability. Well, a resolution is going to come to the executive committee and it's going to explain in a resolution form that when we vote for these plans, it's just so you have something to move forward with to get grants and whatever else you need. It's not written in stone. So people that, like I voted for that thing probably 5, 6 times in the plan because we're voting for a plan. We're not voting for the project. We're voting for the plan so you can move forward. Well, we're going to get that language fixed. So I thank Mr. Pelkey and the speaker for bringing that forward next week at the executive. But when you say it's a plan, well, I would say about 1.5 years ago, all this started with 143rd Street. If it's a plan, well, why couldn't we change it? You know, there's enough people that are dead against it. So when we call it a plan, and then it came up in conversations, you know, a plan, and yeah, it's a plan, but we budget for it every year. So it becomes not a plan. It becomes part of what's going to actually happen. That's why we're going to have this resolution to make sure it's a plan. But what do we do with 143rd Street? And then there's a road by, I think Butler's district, Manhattan Monee Road. I sent you the mayor there, or I think he's the mayor. He's all aggravated that that's going in. So, you know, I mean, we have to start listening to the local people. You know, otherwise we're going to end up with a bunch of really big problems here because our local people are not being representative right for a plan. And it's not, like I said, it's not a plan. So if it's not a plan, why didn't 1.5 years ago, when everybody was against it, the county board voted against it, and it was vetoed, which is legal. And then the township, well, I was supervisor, we sued the county executive for vetoing it, but that's what they said was the best way to stop it. But now I'm not the supervisor anymore, so the new supervisor has not issued another lawsuit. But if I was there, you'd have another lawsuit. So the problem that I got with this is that I get it, it's a plan, but what do we do with what happened 1.5 years ago? We just shut our eyes and pretend it's not a plan 1.5 years ago? Or is it 1.5 years ago, is it too late? Because they haven't broke ground yet, actually, over on 143rd yet. So it's not too late. So I don't get it. I don't get why it's a plan, but everybody's against the plan. Now, we haven't voted as a board with a new board. And that's why the case was dismissed, because there's a new board. But, okay, so we haven't done that. So if we vote as a new board, what happens then? If we vote to stop it as a new board, then what happens? I'm just guessing that it's still going to go forward.
The plan reflects all the contracts we have on hand.
But
If there are changes to a contract, that will be reflected in next year's plan.
so how do we stop this thing from the county level without going to court and without any of the other stuff? If the county board votes no to it, like I tried to have it removed from the plan last month. And that's where this came from. So if it's getting removed from the plan, then that really doesn't kill the project. It's removed from the plan. So there's further discussion about it, right?
Well, the plan is from the statute, it's the county engineer prepares the plan. And I prepare it off the contracts I have in my office. That's what this is. I can't help, I can't change what the contract says.
Well, you follow the word there's a problem? I mean, we've been trying to stop this road for a year and a half at least, probably longer. So at that point, okay, why do we have to go through this whole process? If people don't want it, okay, and it's not like a bunch of NIMBYs, only the people who live there. You're talking about the entire Homer Township area, the entire one. Dave Oxley's not here. His district is in that. Sherry's district is in that. Oh, there he is. I'm looking over there. You know what I mean? This is like ridiculous. There's a lot of people involved with this. And yet we voted no. And then it still goes on. And I know I was getting calls just like everybody else, from the Will County Government League and everyone else telling us about how it's a very important to follow up on what we're going to do and this and that. Well, it's more important to recognize the needs of the people, because that road connects to Route 59, right? Eventually, because you said you have nothing to do with it before. Remember I asked that question and you said, no, there's no bridge? Well, there is a bridge.
The bridge over in Plainfield.
Yeah. So, and it already has, the bridge is already going, the sign on the bridge says 143rd Street. So it's going to go from Route 59 to 143rd Street in Homer Township.
There's no connection bridge over the DuPage, Des Plaines River.
There's
one over the DuPage.
right now they have a bridge that's going to nowhere. But the plan is what? An IDOT plan to go all the way to 143rd Street and connect to 355.
There's no document that says that.
I was told by people that bid the job.
I
I've
need to
heard you
interject
say
here.
that, sir, and that is not factual.
So why did they build a bridge and stop somewhere?
To serve the villages of Plainfield.
What I'm saying, they're building a bridge and stop, not going over anything. It's going to stop. So the bridge to nowhere,
Jeff.
somewhere.
1 second. Jeff, can you clarify on this? Because this bridge in Plainfield, this is the 143rd Street section. There's some bridge. Do you know what that is? I don't know if it's in.
I'm aware of that bridge. It's in Plainfield over the DuPage River.
Yeah. So
There's another river, much larger river,
The
closer
Des
to
Plaines.
Homerland, the Des Plaines, which there is no bridge for.
Thank you. And I'm just trying to get that to be clarified. The Des Plaines, that's if we were going over the bridge, the 9th Street Bridge, you'd look to your left
No,
and you'd see it, right?
no, it's not 9th Street Bridge. It's
Well,
going,
I think he's using that as an example of that type of bridge over that river.
yeah, probably. I mean, I'm not a bridge.
But that's
I'm
not
a-
there. That's what you're referencing right now.
I'm referencing the fact that there's a bridge that's from Route 59 and it's going to connect to 355 at one point at 143rd Street. And the sign on the bridge that they put up already, it's already up, not the whole thing, but it's already up. It's like the bridge that stops. And come on, no one's going to build a bridge that's going to stop. Why would you spend all that money on a bridge that's going to go nowhere? It makes no sense. So it's going to keep going. It's just going to take a little bit of time, but it's going to connect to 143rd and 355. So now you're going to have an expressway basically from 59 to 355. And that means all the traffic that comes from the north, from Wisconsin side or the north part of Chicago or whatever, down 355 can go west or east. So that's going to make a lot more truck traffic and car traffic going west and east. So the quickest route right now is Route 80, just to take 10 minutes further and then you go wherever you want. But we got 159th Street too. That wasn't there when we started this plan. So now, if you can take one of them, why do we have to have 143rd? Is this some kind of a design? the mayor of Orland Park, he doesn't want this road because it'll ruin his town. The new mayor,
Do you know where you got that information from?
from the new mayor.
I've seen a text that says the exact opposite from the mayor.
The mayor told me that he wants only the part where Southwest Highway is at fixed. That's it, because it's a terrible flood zone.
Well, it's within his village limits, so that would be his priority.
Yeah, but they don't
absolutely.
want the rest of it because you'd have to take the forest preserve out, not the whole thing, but a portion of forest preserve in Orland Park. I mean, if you talk to him, did he tell you that?
This
that
is
he-
a, this
that
is
you
a
don't have
text
the
I was,
money
this is
to
just
pay
a
for
text I was
some.
given that's showing that they still want the improvements. So we have a difference of.
Yeah, but we're
current
going,
difference.
this is getting off topic. Yeah.
A little bit.
lot. But what I think the important thing is that we have to recognize that when we're building these roads, they can be, as you said, changeability. I guess that's a good word. Chuck, you hear that? Changeability? I like that word. All right, so if you got changeability, why couldn't we do changeability a year and a half ago? And just do the 3 lanes? I mean, we thought about it, and then the county board voted for it. It doesn't, and now you got people up here, it's not as many as before. And a lot of people are disgusted. But how do you protect those people's rights and the rest of the people in Homer Township, the unincorporated part, which is about 3.6 miles or 3.2 miles, in the village part, which is small part, 1 point something miles. So how do you protect those people? You know, the entire town from 143rd Street all the way out south to the end of our town is against 143rd Street. Everybody. It's not, you'd have to look real hard to find somebody that's in favor of this thing.
I've had people tell me they were in favor of it, including some of the
well,
people we have purchased the property from.
If you took a vote for it, would it pass a vote? The answer is no way in hell.
Well, all I'm going to say, and then I'm going to stop talking about this project, is I am working off and have in the plan a contract for a 5-lane cross section. That's the contract I have been given to execute, and that's why it's in the plan. Again, if something changes over the next year, the next plan will reflect that.
So if we took the 5 lanes out and made it a 3-lane, then that's still okay. Because if we can change it, we have changeability.
Well, here I am talking again anyways. The phase 1 study we did, approved by IDOT and feds, according to all the design criteria that transportation officials use, calls for a 5-lane cross section. It meets those criteria. And that's why when you do a project, you look 20 years ahead, because it takes us 10 years or more to even build a road. You plan for the future.
Well,
Again, as I mentioned last week,
Why
the
Yeah.
traffic volumes was on IDOT's website, 12,300.
yeah, well,
In 2023, 15,300, $3,000, 3,000 vehicles more a day in just a matter of years, with no growth in Homer Glen. So the background community, which we serve as a whole, is using the road more and more. So that's why we are still behind the study provided. Now, again, the county board will decide the contract that needs to move forward. But right now, the contract I have is for a 5-lane cross section, and that's why it's in the plan today.
well, the 5-lane thing goes right through Homer Glen, then it goes to Cook County.
It does.
So who are we servicing? The people from Wisconsin and Lake County and McHenry County? Or are we servicing the people from Homer Township that don't want it? When you talk about this, we're servicing the expansion. We have less population now in Homer Township. People are moving because of the taxes and the water bill in Homer Glen. So we're losing population. We're not gaining it.
But the
So-
traffic volume is increasing, sir. That's all I can say. The
Well,
facts are there.
yes,
And we're serving a county highway as a regional road. It is defined, classified by IDOT as a regional road. And our county highways do that. They move from from a
What's
transportation
150
place to another transportation point.
And what's 159th Street?
That's a major arterial.
Yes.
We're a minor arterial.
Well, 159th Street won't be as big as 143rd Street. Because 143rd Street will go from Route 59 eventually all the way to Cicero. 159th Street doesn't, you got the bridge, and then you got, it goes into nowhere land, really. It ends, it stops. So 143rd Street will be much bigger than 159th Street. It'll almost be the size of, I don't know, I have to look at a map, but like Route 80.
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
I don't know if you could do it even in a committee. Can you call a committee? It seems like we're talking just only about 143rd Street. Could you be talking about the plan? And are we going to proceed, approve the 5-year plan?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Mr. Balich, did you have any more comments?
I'm going to be voting no to the plan because this isn't removed.
Okay, thank you. All right, we are going to move to other committee members. Mr. Oxley, please
Yes.
proceed with your
Jeff,
comments.
there's several questions I have.
Sure.
Have you had a meeting with the township authorities? Because part of this, and I'm new, I'm only 6 months into this, part of this is in Homer Township, part of it is in Homer Glen. So we have two different fashions of government to meet here. So we need to have that conversation with them. The people I've heard from are against it. And the next thing is, how much less right of way would you have to take if you went to a 3-lane or 2 lanes with a center turn lane versus a 5?
Okay, so on the township level, the entire project is within the municipal limits of the village of Homer Glen. The entire project is. There's only 12 parcels in unincorporated Homer Township along this project,
Okay.
12 out of this. So not a huge amount, but yes, they are there.
Which they deserve to be heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Denise.
So the township and all the local officials have been invited to all the previous public meetings. And in a recent meeting with the executive's office, the township individual was there. So they're aware of the project, active discussion. I mean, at this point, I mean, again, I have a contract in front of me, so that's what I'm working with. So
Have you
that's
heard
where we're at.
anything from the township authorities since? the
I
meeting?
have heard, no.
No.
No, because after that meeting, we were going to provide some information to them, which the executive office did provide. So that's where it's left since
Okay.
my meeting. But then as far as 5-lane, 3-lane, we had our consultant look at a 3-lane rural section because that's what originally was asked for. And those right-of-way requirements were generally the same because with the rural cross-section, you have to go further out to make the ditches work.
Sure.
And actually, there were actually going to be quite a bit additional for detention ponds because we would have to store the water in detention ponds instead of a closed-in storm sewer system.
Yeah.
So we don't know those amounts because we would have to spend a lot of money to do that design work, and I wasn't going to spend any more money until we had direction to do otherwise. So there's
So the
that.
difference
Those
from a
roughly
5
the
to
same.
3 is negligible.
Negligible on rural. Curb and gutter, if we just kept it a curb and gutter. We didn't do a lot of detail here either, but we know we changed the construction limits with the best we could and showed that while we may come in on a lot of the parcels, we'll still hit, I'd say majority of the parcels, not all of them. We would be able to eliminate some, but
Mhm.
we would still have right-of-way ticks on a majority of the parcels.
Right.
Again, that's not a detailed because that would take a lot of time and money if we were going to redesign, and we would need a supplement to really look at that. But we did the best we could, and it looks similar.
Okay, is there a way to push this down the road instead of 2029 to move it to 31 or 32 or any of that nature, just to see, in the meantime, see if we
The
can get
the
a
western
compromise here?
side, I think you're referring to the western side where we have for 2029?
Either side.
Yeah, I mean, well, the east side I can't move because that's tied to the federal dollars, which is 2026. So I can't move that. The west side,
Maybe.
there's opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Miss Hickey had a comment.
Thank you. All of the projects that are listed in the plan have come to the board and been voted on in some way, shape, or form, correct?
All the projects, yes.
Okay. So Has action has been taken on 143rd?
Yeah, there's been, other than the quoted in the plan about since 2012, I believe, but there's been 10 separate votes, county board contracts brought forward 143rd, whether the right-of-way acquisition team, the pipeline relocation costs that we've already done, the phase 2 design, as well as the preliminary engineering design. So there's been 10 separate contracts on 143rd Street, yes.
Okay. So my understanding is what we're doing here today is adopting the plan. We're not revisiting projects that have been previously voted upon. And unless there is a motion to rescind, I think that we need to move forward with looking at this plan and adopting it or voting it down one way or the other. So that would be my hope. Thank you.
I would just like to say, if the plan consists of projects that we were previously voted on, then, and today we're voting on this plan, then by our nature, we are, examining the individual projects that go into this plan. So I don't think the discussion has strayed too far away from what we're supposed to be doing with this. And I encourage other board members to speak if they have something to say. So we're going to go back to Member Balich for the second time before we go to Member Butler, then Member Ogala, and I didn't see anybody else. So Steve, if you could, you've had a lot of time, just make it quick.
It's going to be quick. I just want to clarify something. If we had won the election, we would have from the township side, our road commissioner we already wrote it up. We were just waiting to win the election, but we didn't. So it didn't go anywhere. We're going to do a jurisdictional transfer of the part of Homer Township of 143rd to us. And our road commissioner said that we wouldn't have to increase, like you were kind of vague, but he said that, and Brent Porfilio was our road commissioner, and he's an award-winning engineer. So he's got a lot of qualifications. He does roads all over the United States. He said that you'd have to take just a tiny portion of the land with a 3-lane thing compared to a 5-lane thing. And so I said, well, what's a tiny portion? He says, well, there's a lot of ways you could do this thing. But if you, one of the ways, which he didn't do the numbers, so he didn't know for sure, but you can put your pipes and stuff for sewer and water and all, that stuff in the middle lane and not have to increase it hardly at all. You can, then there's a question about curb and gutters, so that should, in my mind, it should make it so you take less land. But he said, well, we got to do the numbers on that too. But he said for what we're doing with 3 lanes, it's definitely going to be less land getting taken than 5 lanes. So that's all I wanted to say, because Mr. Oxley asked that question.
Thank you, Member Balich. Member Butler, please proceed with your comments.
Thank you. Okay, so first of all, I just want to start out because I know sometimes my words sound harsh and I sound like I'm coming from an adversarial point of view, but I'm not. I want to tell you one of the first things that I noticed when I was on the board was that when I was driving around Will County and I went into Cook County, I'm like, wow, the roads out in Cook County are really bad. I'm like, we actually do a very good job maintaining our roads. So I'm very thankful for the department and the work they do. And to be clear, the objections that I had to the plan were not anything about what you did, what work you had in front of you. It was more of a policy making objection. And, as you know, many times I have opposed any type of, well, I want to say eminent domain, but even more quick take. I oppose it very much. So it just seemed to me like in these projects where we get these federal grants, for $6 million or $2 million or whatever, to do this road study, determine, on traffic patterns, what is the best way to handle all this traffic? But did we talk to the townships? Did we understand what effect that those plans were going to have on the community development within those townships? And is there a way that we can handle that traffic, but maybe not affect the community development in an adverse way? And that's what we're finding here with a couple projects, with Homer. Obviously, they're dark skies community. They like their quiet little town. And for Moni, they have a community development plan that they think will be adversely disrupted by this new project. But they also say, hey, there's a good idea. We could maybe reroute this around this way, and it would work for us. And the policy objection that I had was, why are we having these discussions with these townships after we've gotten the grants to design the project? So that was what I was saying is, how are we figuring these priorities? Not how do you have them prioritized? How do we figure out what is a priority? That was something that I was more interested in. And,
One more time, I think that was a real important thing that you said about the priority within the project and what's important. Because I feel like that speaks to a crux of our problem with all these items.
okay, well, I had a train of thought. I obviously
sorry.
don't
Sorry.
remember exactly
Maybe
how I
if you
said
want-
it,
If you
but,
want me to answer, maybe a little trigger and clarify. Maybe you can clarify what I'll say if I don't answer you correctly, and then see if that answers your question. So I'll give me a shot here. The townships and funding. So the federal dollars we get are typically in the construction phase. So that's when the phase 1 and phase 2 are generally done or near done. That's usually when we get them, because that's when you apply for the big ones and get them. So that's closer to the construction phase. So we don't have that up front. The townships and all of our local agency, they're involved on the front end, which oftentimes is the phase 1 study, which we're going through in Wilmington Peatone. We're going through the phase 1 study right now in Moni, which I think is the second project you're talking about. So with the preliminary engineering, all the local agencies are involved in that discussion to find out what is the proper route. So that happens at the front end before the federal dollars are even allocated or sought. We can't seek federal dollars into phase 1. They will not accept it unless you have a phase 1 study done. So we're involving the townships and the villages up front.
you just had a meeting with Moni on June 26th.
Correct.
I mean, maybe I'm reading your timeline wrong, but haven't you already spent money on the planning of that project?
Oh, sure.
And isn't it like close to 4 million?
We have not spent 4 million, no.
What is it?
I don't have that value.
It was at least 2 million.
We
Because,
have-
I'm looking at it, maybe I'm reading wrong.
Yeah, those values on there are just
Back to the-
contract amounts.
Please. To the policy, okay?
Yeah.
Better than to spend $1 to first talk to the communities, okay? Because I don't want to have to pin you down on exactly how much money, because I look and I see that we're spending money before we have the meeting. And I know, because trust me, I got quite a few calls from that. When I objected to this, I just read the 42-page report and I thought, I'm not hearing some things in here I'd like to hear if they want my approval. And a week later, you had a meeting, or 2 weeks later, and I got my email or my letter today because I didn't come in. So I didn't even know about the meeting, but I found out about it because I had tons of people calling me really upset. And it was the same thing with Homer. So I was starting to see a trend here, and I just feel like I'm not trying to blame anybody. Like I said, you guys do a good job, and I want good roads, but maybe before we spend money, we talk to people. Maybe you find out from Moni, yeah, we're okay with the road as long as you change the route a little bit, and can you do this? And then when you spend the money, it's based on something that everybody wants, not have to go back and spend more money to find out if that alteration will work. You see what I'm saying? I'm not opposing projects. I'm just opposing not having a partnership with our townships so that they can be, better received. There's always money to be spent. We can always spend it somewhere. If they don't want it, we can spend it somewhere else, I'm sure, but better that when we do spend the money, they want it than not. So that's why I, talk about maybe a policy change or, put into the transportation plan on how we actually come up with these projects or plan them. I mean, honestly, for Homer, I get it. Wider road, more traffic, less stop sign wait, less, you get to work 5 minutes earlier. But the people that live there, they don't care. They just want their property. They want to live. They want to enjoy their peace and their prosperity from owning land and being able to be comfortable where they live. But somebody decided to blaze a road through there. And so I want to know why that was a priority,
Sure.
and I want to know why we're even planning these projects without talking to the people before $1 is spent.
Sure, absolutely. First, to start off on the big picture, we have a long-range plan in place for 2020, 30, 40, and now 50, of which there has been extensive public involvement to the public, the local agencies, townships, municipalities, state officials. All of it have a chance to comment on this plan showing where are the projects needed, including the public. And again, some of them will comment that they don't necessarily like a particular project on the plan. That's a reality. But we do have those conversations. The opportunities are given there for them to comment. That's the very, very big picture. So a 20-year plan. And those are the projects we work off of as we go into our multi-year plan and bring new projects into the plan before we start them. We look at where the priorities are and discuss which ones are more immediate from a traffic standpoint or safety, whatever it might be. But those contracts are brought to the county board for approval, and they usually are not brought forward until we have had some conversation. There's a need for it for some reason. Either someone's bringing to us a need for the traffic volumes or the safety, so that happens. Now, in Homer Glen's case, I can't speak to that too much because that's since 2009. So I can't speak to the initial process, although there was a phase one with all these people invited to talk about the project. Manhattan Moniz one, the recent one you're talking about, that project was brought forward to county board a year or so ago, but it came because in 2018, the 5 municipalities in that area came to us as a county. It wasn't even on our radar, saying we want something done out there. The trucks are going where they should not be. Township roads, municipal streets, they're going where we don't want them to go. So the county needs to do something. So then in 2020, we started a plan based on their input. So we started this plan, and now here we are in 25, still trying to figure out the best route to go through. And now we've had the more recent meetings with some alternatives presented for people, the public, the township, the municipal officials to comment on. Nothing's set in stone as far as the route at this time. The Village of Monee is going to provide us some recent information on development they have going on, so we'll have that ongoing dialogue. But in that particular instance, I think there has been a multitude of opportunity for engagement of the local officials, and it wasn't even our idea. It was the idea of those administrations at the time. So we're not going to bring a project forward to you that doesn't have some level of discussion already, because we're going to need buy-in from the municipalities, at least the new stuff. I can't speak so much to the old stuff, but the new stuff, we want that. I mean, there's an Illinois 53 and Arsenal Road township individual wanted turn lanes put in there. They brought that to us. Wasn't our project, state's intersection. We talked about as a committee bringing it forward and doing it ourselves and voted to do that. No contract yet. I went to IDOT and they said, oh, we're going to include it in our project. So that's getting done without us even doing it. So there is dialogue. Maybe if we miss some people, we hope not, but I'm definitely open to making sure we have
I
open
appreciate
dialogue.
that. I appreciate that. Obviously, we're short on dialogue in a few areas because it's a
Okay.
big deal. And as far as details go, when they came to you to talk to you about truck traffic, because I get the same thing, believe it or not, they probably call multiple different departments about truck traffic. They call you, they call me. I have to call the sheriff. I have to get scales out there because they're driving heavy trucks on their roads that can't support them. You know, so there's, anytime you decide that the road project's gonna come, there's 3 different types, right? You know, so you can either do a full, road expansion, you could do intersections with turning lanes and streetlights, and then there's just repavements, right? Because, I read through the plan, and so how did you determine that it needed to be a whole, road expansion all the way through there as opposed to one of the other ideas? Or how come we're not told that in the plan based on, increased truck traffic, this is why we want to do this? I'm just saying for, when, and this is a lot because we get this thrown in our face that you approved it. You approved it. You approved the plan. Well, the plan needs to be more detailed so we know what we're approving. And that's my objection to it, not the fact that you're doing, repairs on roads and you're doing the best you can, but I'm just gonna let that go for now, but I did one other thing. So, and this might be a little personal, I don't know, but on road projects, I heard the biggest delay on a road project is the utilities. Is that true?
Once we go to construction, yes, that is our biggest issue. Right-of-way acquisition is the one that gets us, is the delay to construction. But once we get to construction, it's often the utilities is our biggest issue, yes.
Because honestly, like Pfeiffer Road, I drive down it every day. And I can't tell you in the last month or two if I've seen anybody working on that road or not. And so, the fact that we don't really get a hold of the pipeline and the utility companies up front and get it all like figured out, I would speak for almost everybody in this room when I say we love road projects. We just like them to get started and finished and not be a bunch of horses out there that we're driving through and no people. So the idea that we don't talk to the pipeline companies and we don't talk to the utility companies up front, maybe that's a policy change that we could make, because I know for a fact on the Moni Manhattan Road, the pipeline companies weren't even approached yet.
Okay, so, I don't want to take it personally, but because you don't know. Every 2 months, we meet with all the utility companies and go over the status of our design of our projects from the very moment it starts to construction. So every 2 months, we're talking with the utility companies, letting them know where our status of our plans is, asking them where the status of their utility relocation plans are to us. And it's oftentimes that they don't respond back quickly. Some do, some don't. So every 2 months, we're meeting with them in the design phase. So the pipelines on Manhattan Moni have been contacted. We've had quite a bit of dialogue with BP and whoever else is out there trying to locate where they are at. So they're involved, and we're right at the beginning of those projects. So that's getting done. As far as, I don't know what Pfeiffer is. I don't know what's going on in Pfeiffer. But the delays when we get closer to construction, they're just not able to get out there. I don't know why that is. They give us timelines. The utility companies give us timelines. We put them in the contracts as to when they're supposed to get completed, and they fail to meet that. I have no control over the utilities. I wish there was something legally we could do to make them hold to those. So sometimes that delays the starts of our projects. And at that point, we know where all the conflicts are at. Now, occasionally during the middle of the project, such as on Bell Road, a conflict comes up that we weren't aware of because they relocated in the wrong spot. So that does shut our project down from time to time. So we have those instances. But I'm going to reassure you and the committee here that we have a lot of dialogue with the utilities. I don't know how successful it has been. Every road agency has this issue, including IDOT. And I don't know what the fix is. So it has to be legislative fix somehow. But as far as our end, we have bi-monthly meetings with these utility companies.
So my last point here, okay, maybe weekly, because it is a construction project. So that would keep everybody more in tune, a weekly contact, like I contact ComEd when I do my projects, and get updates. And I know they can be tough. They got to put in work orders and then they disappear. And then, you're waiting for a reply. But maybe instead of every 2 months, because that's a long time. And then the other thing, that's a policy decision. That's that object to the plan on. And then my last thing, excuse me, I just said it was my last point. So allow me the decency just to finish my comment. And the only reason I said something about the pipeline, because I met with the pipeline company and they told me they had not been approached. So they lied to me if that's the case.
The pipeline, I'm sure, is a huge organization. And our engineers might not be talking to certain people. So, I mean, if you need the names, I can provide you the names of who we've been talking to.
I would like that.
And
Okay.
then as far as during construction, though, the bigger construction projects do have bi-weekly. Construction manager Brian Gieske is here in the room. He meets with the contractor bi-weekly, and the utilities are invited to that up until they're not in conflict anymore. How much they attend, I'd have to refer to Brian, but they are invited to the bi-weekly meetings if those exist. So again, those meetings always don't go quite well because everyone's pointing at each other as to why we're not getting certain things done, but they are involved there too.
Okay, thank you. Members Ogala, Richmond, and Williams, we have a couple committee members that would like to speak. We have member Freeman next, then member Oxley.
So thank you, Jeff, for
Yep.
taking all this time. I have tried to keep it on the fact that we're, the plan, but obviously we're talking about other things. The 143rd Street, we have a 3-mile section. Why is that the last 3-mile section? Is it because it's the hardest one to get to? Is it because of, why did we wait for this little section to be last?
Because the ends had the most traffic impacts. I-355, obviously huge traffic generator. So that was focused on first. The tollway did that, of course. The state did. Archer, the village of Homer Glen itself did State Street and Lamont Street. They built that 5-lane cross section themselves. And then back in Homer Glen on the other side, the commercial area. So a lot more traffic volumes were higher there. So we focused on that part first. So we went on the ends and then worked our way in.
Well, that makes sense to me. And you kind of answered my question about the process for notification. I know that you do like public hearings and public information sessions. How do you let the community know about those?
The leadership is invited, similar to the postings, the letters you get when public meetings, they get a letter as to the upcoming public meetings.
It's like the constituents that are close to the project would get a letter.
The constituents along the corridor, yes, I've now granted the county board in the last year or so, whatever it was, passed a resolution for a quarter mile on either side. So we're incorporating that into all of our public meetings. So the last public meetings we have had that quarter mile swath.
And this has been going on since 2009, you said?
The 143rd one.
Yes,
This
so-
particular section is, the whole quarter has been going on for decades.
So it's been going on for a really long time. And I'm assuming that, there's been some change with every election with leadership and
Yeah.
legislative sessions. So I'm assuming somehow they're informed as well?
During-
I don't know. And I know you can't talk for townships and municipalities as to how they inform their trustees and their newly elected about projects in the area. But is there a method that we go about to make sure that they're aware that this is going on?
You mean change in leadership?
Well, I mean, in like with every election, you get new members.
Okay.
There's change with who sits on the boards. So I've heard today that they didn't know that
Okay, I think I see. So, yeah,
this
so
was
we,
occurring. So
we've-
how do we make sure that after an election, the new representatives of the districts are
well,
aware?
I'll be blunt. I would put that on their staff to educate them on things that are going on in their neighborhood or their municipality. Now, during
Phase one, we
phase
deal
one, we deal
directly with
whoever is in administration at that time.
Okay.
And there's documents and records to that effect. So I'm not sure I'm willing to have my staff chase down every person that's
Every
changed.
2 years.
I'm just not
Okay.
at the point where I'm at that point. I think the staff should have some responsibility to educate their leadership on what's going on.
Okay. So like I live off.
But there
of-
is like every 2 years, we're notifying everyone along the corridor, and that would include the villages. So we would catch them at that point. Granted, it might be a year into their administration, but
So I live off of Renwick and 30. I have seen the changes. There was a time where 30 was just 2 lanes, and now it's 4 with a turn lane. Traffic moves smoothly. It's beautiful compared to what it was. Renwick used to be a 2 lane. Now it's got a turn lane down the middle. And there was a lot of outcry, but it's safer because now you have an area to turn into. You're not blocking traffic. You're not getting rear-ended. So I am in favor of this plan. And I think we need to focus on that again. And thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Member Freeman. We're going to move to Member Oxley.
Yes, I would question if there's any representatives here from Homer Glen or Homer Township to speak on this, because this committee needs to hear what they have to say also.
We do have a section for public comment, which we are going to get to in our agenda. I have seen before where we've made motions to move public comment up, but I'm not sure if would support that. I mean, if there's a motion, I don't think I can make a motion, right? Oh.
Thank you.
Member Winfrey, go ahead.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. To Mr. Oxley's point, we have had that public comment on this particular road already extensively. And at this point, we are on the plan overall, not individual pieces of it. And a lot of work has already been done. As Mr. Ronaldson has said, he has the contract in hand. So I would suggest that we move forward with the plan overall. Plan by definition means a guideline. This is what we're going to do unless money falls through, circumstances don't allow, things like that, as he has already said. So I would move that we go forward with the plan, take the vote to either accept this plan or not again.
Okay, and then we did have 3 more members that wanted to chime in. They've been patiently waiting, so I'm going to, I don't think there's been a second to that motion, and I don't think we could call the question in committee anyway. So, yeah, okay, so we're
Motion
going
was to approve the plan as presented.
I would second that motion.
Yeah, I think we already had a motion on the floor. I might need some help from the state's attorney on that. That seems like that's like calling a question, and I know we can't do that in committee.
Yes, I think given the way you've operated so far in this meeting, I think you need to give, sorry, I think you need to give the other county board members the opportunity to speak.
Yeah, thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Oxley. So we're going to move to Member Ogala.
Thank you. So I just want to say a couple of things. One thing that I observed sitting here is when we have a county board member who's very passionate about an issue that's in their district and they're fighting for their constituents, I think it is completely rude that some of us snicker and smile. Maybe it doesn't matter to you because you don't live anywhere near there, or maybe you think somebody's going over the top. But the person should be respected. It's their passion. They have lots of constituents who, especially with this situation, who are opposed to it. So I think you guys should show a little more respect when somebody is speaking. Jeff, I just want to say, as always, I've had a good working relationship with you and members of your team. And like Dan said, Will County roads are in good shape. So I hear this conflicting conversation here. We hear it's a plan, but we have a plan, we have contracts in place. So it's really not a guideline. Because if it was a guideline, we wouldn't have contracts in place. So we have to determine the difference here, and things change over time. Members of the board change over time. So if the board decides to say, hey, you know, we're changing, we don't want to do this, the board has the right to do that, regardless how many times in the past something has been voted on. I did have a couple questions, Jeff. I was wondering how much money has been spent on the 143rd Street study, and where did those dollars come from?
all right. 143rd Street, we've spent on the order of 6.3 million since 2009. And that's come from a variety of sources, the various road transportation funds we've had. They're all local funds, unless, was there, in the phase one study, I believe there were federal dollars in that. I don't know the amount, unless Christina, do you recall? Yeah, because Christine is our phase one project manager. But so 750,000 federal, otherwise all the rest were local funds, meaning county local funds, MFT, RTA, any assortment of those.
All right, thank you. And so, like everything, you have to do a study before you determine whether you're going to move forward with a road improvement to any degree, whether you're going to just add stop signs or whether you're going to go from 2 lanes to turn lanes to 3 lanes to 5 lanes, what have you. So things change over time, and this board gets the right to have that decision to vote on it. So for a board member, it becomes difficult because, like Steve mentioned, you voted on this 10 times. You voted on it 10 times. Well, we get the 2020, the 2030, 2050. In 2050, I don't know how much people are really thinking about. I know our highway department has to plan for that. That makes sense. But some members of the board may not look at it that closely for a 2050 plan until it gets further along. So I think that, I think some of the changes we've made with Public Works and Transportation that we've asked Jeff to at the beginning of after every election to take the road projects that are in the area broken down by county board districts so the new board members can see what projects are going on in their district is very beneficial because, like they say, it could be 7 to 10 years from phase one to phase two. And during that time, maybe it gets brought up here and there on our agendas, but not everyone's really paying attention because people are out on the road doing their work. And then when phase two is about to hit, then it becomes reality again. So there's that lag in time. So I think it's appropriate that we're having the conversation. And while we're talking about the entire plan, 5-year plan here, it is specific to the 143rd Street. It's very controversial and people are very concerned about this road. So I think to say that we shouldn't be talking about it is, it's kind of like, well, that's why we're here today. So I think we need to take a good look at this. And if the members of the committee decide they want to pull 143rd Street out of the plan, that's their decision to make. They're the elected officials. They sit on this committee. They can make that decision if that's what they want to do. That's what we're here to do, is do our vote on what we want to do. Not be told that we have to follow something because it makes sense to look at situations again and again. And one last question, Jeff. Did we originally look at 143rd Street in case 159th was not done by the state? That is something that I've heard again and again, that we planned 143rd, which is a county highway, and this 159th is state, just in case. Because I know we've done things down in my area, like if something isn't done, then we would do something because we have to move the traffic. So is that true statement? Do you know?
I'm not sure I understand the frame. You've mentioned the two, but what I will say is that when we developed our project, we were aware 159th Street would be widened to the 5-lane, but our improvements, our traffic projections still showed 143rd Street was needed regardless.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we are going to move to member Richmond. Give me a second. Oh, I'm in the wrong row. You're good to go.
No problem. Thank you. You're doing a great job of running this meeting.
Thanks.
So thank you for everybody coming out and having a healthy discussion on this. 143rd Street runs right through the heart of Homer Glen. Those people are very passionate about their area, just like every one of us should be passionate about the people that we represent. I'm not going to go through everything that we've talked about in that. I think a number of my colleagues have had some very good statements, some very enlightening statements. I think what it comes down to is communication. About 3 weeks ago, don't quote me on the exact time frame, the county executive sat down with the mayor, her staff, and the township, Homer Glen Township staff. The discussion was had to provide information to Jeff, you and the team provide the information back to him. And the objective was to come to a compromise. That's only been 3 weeks. Now, I know this is part of the plan, but this is what's going on as we speak. Steve, you brought up a great point here. The 3 lanes with putting the storm sewer down the middle of it. Never heard that part of it ever before. That's a great concept. What you're doing is you're going to take less of the people's property. You're going to keep the road. We're coming up with some kind of compromise. We're keeping the people, letting the people have their property and keeping the roadway further away from some of those houses. Some of those houses literally sit within 30 or 40 feet of the center line. Maybe it's 60 feet, I don't know, but it would literally be in their front porch or their backyard. I think it's our job as elected officials to try and protect the residents. And yes, we do have plans. We have to make plans. Dan, to your point of that it takes so long to build a roadway. We built the Hoover Dam, without computers, almost 100 years ago. And we did it in years, not decades. So I think what we need to do is look at how we can streamline some of these processes and make these things, open up the lines of communication. I know, Jeff, you and your team go out and do these long, these presentations and all that. People just aren't engaged. So it's up to us as county board members to engage with the elected officials in the townships and the villages and make them aware of what's going on in the 2030, 2040, 2050 plan. So that this way we can do our job, they can do their job, and we can try and bring some of these things to light long before a shovel is even in the ground. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Member Richmond. We're going to go to Member Williams.
Thank you. My question basically is about the plan development, because I do think that I agree with Member Richmond that the communication is not there. If the public is opposed to some of the plan that we have come up with, will we then not go forward with that part of the plan? That's the question for you, Jeff.
Sure. So the plan is, again, it's a snapshot of the contracts we have in hand. And then from that point, it projects how we would bring the project to fruition, which will involve additional contracts, additional, whether it's design or construction. So if there's concern brought up over a particular project, that should be brought up, and then we can work through that dialogue. And then whatever contracts come out of that, whether the county board approves future contracts or not, those will be reflected in the next plan. Again, the plan is just a document. So I can see some confusion between contract and future contracts, but the plan is based on the existing contracts we have in hand, and then all the future ones we will have to bring forward to make that happen. And that's where the county board still has the say to not bring it forward or not. If there's enough opposition or we need to change or modify a project, then that future contract will look different. So say Wilmington Peatone, it's laid out a certain way, and we're just at the very beginning of that project. So if some people don't want a certain segment over another, then that contract for the preliminary design, you guys don't vote that through. And then that's changed in the next year's plan as the snapshot. Or if you find one segment more priority than the other, we can talk about it and see if it makes sense to move that project, that contract forward quicker. So that's where the changeability happens. You can change the order of the future contracts. You can change the existing contracts, and the county board has that ability, but I'm working with the contracts I have in hand. So I'm not sure if that really answered your question, Sherry.
Not really, because where do the contracts come from?
The contracts come from the county board that we bring forward into the county board.
Right, you bring what kind of contract are we talking about though?
The contracts range from preliminary engineering, which is the very beginning stage where we try and figure out what the road should look like. Then we have the design contracts, which we take that information from the phase one and design the contract plans from that. We have the right-of-way acquisition team, appraisals, title reports, negotiators, all those contracts. Then the construction contracts themselves, where we take the plans and bid it out and bring that contract to you. So there's all kinds of different contracts, and they're all reflected in this snapshot. Some are right-of-way, some are preliminary engineering, some are design. The construction ones aren't there because obviously if it's constructed, it's happening. So we don't need a plan for the future. It's happening.
So I guess I'm talking about before you even get to that point when you're deciding.
Okay. So yeah, when we're deciding which contracts to bring forward, we bring that to the Public Works Committee as, is this a project we're ready to move forward? I can think of Manhattan-Monee between 45 and Center. We asked, is this a project we want to bring forward? as a contract, and the committee agreed that it made sense to extend the road from our current limits to 45. So then we got that concurrence, and then we sought out contracts to bring forward. I think there's some other instances like that that can come to mind, but that's what it is. If we,
Okay, because I think that better answers it. And if during that time,
Yep.
the citizens are like, no, we don't want it, and we're getting a lot of heat, and they decide that that's not something that we want to move forward, it would be at that point that we would do that.
well, I mean, honestly, like Manhattan Money and 45 to Center, I mean, that was our concept brought to the board to see if they agree, and the public just isn't going to know about it yet.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So we seem to kind of leave the public out of it, and that's where the problem comes in, because we're doing all of this stuff, and then we go forward, and then all of the people that live there say, what are you doing? We didn't ask for this. You guys are just doing stuff because you want to do it. So then they're vehemently opposed. And I know sometimes people are going to be opposed, and we're going to move forward anyway because we think we need to. But sometimes we don't need to, and we just move forward because we want to. So if the public doesn't want it, when do they get to say that?
That's in the phase 1 process. So like that.
But we've already done all these contracts and stuff by that time, right?
Only one.
Okay.
The phase 1 is one single, very initial contract, and built into that contract is all the public's involvement process. I mean, the manuals to carry out this public involvement, they're very large, and they're posted online on IDET's website. We have a very strict process to get federal dollars that we have to do the public involvement certain ways, and it's all laid out there. And that takes place in the first contract. If it turns out that there's a no-build issue, which is a choice in phase 1, you look at the alternatives, and if none of them work for whatever reason, public involvement doesn't like it, local agencies don't like it, or there's just resources in the area, natural or otherwise, that just don't make it possible, there's a no-build scenario. It doesn't go anywhere. And then even if the phase 1 contract shows a route is desirable or needed, county board's going to approve a second contract for the design. So if you're getting public feedback and you still don't like what the phase 1 says, you don't vote on moving a phase 2 project forward.
Okay, I thank you for that. I think that the problem, as Member Richmond said, is the communication, because at some point, the public needs to be involved. I mean, that's who we represent. So if we're not talking to the people that we represent, then what are we doing? We're just deciding for people, because we're the geniuses that know everything and they don't. I mean, so we do need public involvement, and I don't think that there's been enough, or maybe not soon enough. And so that is kind of on us as well. But I do think that we should not disregard the public, because it seems like there's a lot of mention of a lot of things, but the public's not one of them. Thank you.
Williams. Moving on to Member Van Dyne.
Thank you, Chair. We do have this plan in front of us, and I know it was mentioned. Maybe some folks aren't. In particular, some of the minor projects that are on this plan, but we are here to vote on the plan. I appreciate Mr. Ronaldson for coming in once again to give more detail on the plan and how it's designed and how it's expressed to the public and all the elected officials. You know, I feel like this board has really done a good job with the temperament since this issue has been brought forward. I know there was mention of some snickering. I happen not to see it. But that's the respect that I think we all need to give to our committee members. But I'd also would like to give respect to the chair of the committee as well. I think for the most part, everybody has addressed you, but I do hear some comments that people are talking out of line. And you've handled it really well, and I appreciate that, Mark. So I encourage the board to feel free to go ahead and either pass this plan or deny it.
Yeah.
And one other thing, I know some year ago or 2 years ago, there was an attempt to keep people off the floor. That does not work for the county board. And I feel like that did not come from me, but it was the previous administration, and I happen to see that today. So I would like that to try to end as well. Thank you.
Understood. Okay, yeah, I do think we have enough discussion that took place to move on to vote on this. We do have a public comment section. Are you? No, if you'd like to make a motion, I can up here. Hold on one sec. Let me get his microphone on.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Oxford.
I'll make a motion to hold our vote till we hear from the representatives from Homer Township and Homer Glen that are here today.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call, please?
You need to make a motion to change the rules, public comments. That's the motion you have to make.
Okay, so Mr. Oxley, can you restate your motion?
Change the motion to amend the rules to let public comment go before we vote on this.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please? Ooh, I don't know which mic. Oh, I got it. No, it's okay. I had it first one.
Balich,
Yes.
Freeman,
No.
Hickey,
No.
Oxley,
Yes.
Winfrey, Revis.
Yes.
Motion fails.
Okay, motion fails. Okay, so I know we had a previous motion and a second. I do have one other discussion item separate from all the specific road projects. Jeff, you had mentioned in there that one of the most difficult parts is the utility relocation, because a lot of time we set dates in these contracts and the utility companies don't adhere to those dates. Do you remember saying that? That's the case? Okay, I didn't misunderstand anything. So I would just ask that if you could look into, you don't have to respond now, but if you could look into if we are legally allowed to draft a clause within these contracts that imposes a late fee for failure to move the utility on time, so we can make the financials of the project a little bit more favorable for the
Well,
county.
I do appreciate what you're saying. Unfortunately, that not quite correct in that I might, if I didn't clarify it. We have no contract with the utility companies. It's just, there is no contract with them. So we get their construction schedules from them and we include that schedule provided from them in the construction documents for the contractor. So it doesn't bind the utility company. It just gives the contractor an idea. So when are these people actually going to be out of the way? So when they bid on it, they can see that when it's going to happen. So I don't have a contractual
Yeah, so
hammer
it sounds like an
or the
item for
utilities.
legislative then.
It is legislative,
Okay.
absolutely.
Understood. So just something that I think maybe we should pick up. That sounds like good future business for the board. Okay, so we did have a motion and a second. I think there was a previous, member Balich.
I motion to amend the motion to withdraw 143rd Street from the plan for approximately 6 months until after there's the discussions between the county and the township and the village are finished. So we're not moving forward on something and spending money and time on something that may change.
I would second that.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend the motion to remove 143rd Street off the plan for 6 months. And we have some input from the state's attorney here, I think. Oh, I'm sorry, maybe not.
Well, you've already done it once. Change anything.
Yeah. Okay, one sec. We're going to put on your microphone and we're going to proceed with that.
You've already done it once. Now you're doing it again. This is going to go on forever. You can't keep doing it. You already had one opportunity to amend it. You can't keep amending it. So this is improper what you're doing now. It's out of order.
Thank you for clarifying. Okay, I got a couple things coming at me. Everybody, please just wait for your time. Member.
The same motion?
No.
So you can amend as many times as you want. You can make all the amendments you want. And you can't make the same amendment. That would be wrong.
It's already been amended twice.
Okay.
No, it's been a different
I
motion.
think we might have to side with the state's attorney on this. Mr. Balich, I'm going to let you speak, though.
Point of order, I want to speak
I'm
because the
letting you
state's
speak.
attorney is wrong.
Okay, I'm letting you speak. Go ahead.
When I made the motion before, I wanted it removed from the plan. This time, I'm making the motion to remove it from the plan for a period of time of approximately 6 months until the discussions about it are finished. So in other words, I don't want to spend money or time on something that's going to change possibly.
So the first
it's
motion
a
you made was
completely
to
different
remove it
motion
from the
now.
plan.
Guys, we don't
And
need-
the second motion you made was to remove it move it from the plan for 6 months. Same thing.
No,
just a
it's not.
different
You
time.
didn't, you're not saying the whole thing. It's remove it from the plan for 6 months. And the reason why, that's the important thing. There's discussions going on right now between the village, the township, and the county executive's office. I'm not privy to those discussions, so I can't tell you how they're going, but I know there's discussions going on. As long as there's discussions going on, that changes the entire motion that I made. So you're taking the other part off. So again, I'm saying you're wrong. You're a
You
good
can say
guy,
I'm
you're a
wrong all
smart
you
guy.
want.
Come on, let's
Balich.
think about
The
this.
fact of the matter is, this is a plan based on contracts that have already been signed and approved by the board. You
I'm
can't
making an
get out
amendment.
of the contracts because they've already been approved and signed. We're locked into them. This is merely, as Mr. Ronaldson has pointed out, for an hour and a half, that this is a plan to move forward with those contracts, and that's all it considers. It's time to vote on it. You've been talking about it for an hour and a half, and you've made 2 motions, which you're only allowed to make 1.
I made one motion a month ago, and I'm making another motion now, which is completely different. You can't tell me what I just said is not the same as the other thing. It's completely different. I'm making a motion that we shouldn't be spending time and money on something that may change. You're saying just because you have a contract, well, what are we supposed to do? Make a motion not to do the contract for 6 months?
You've already.
That's a different motion then. I'll amend my motion to say, no, we want to take 143rd Street out and review the contract for, after 6 months. Is that what you want? I didn't make that. Is that what you want me to do?
The vote should be, it's
Do you want me
up
to?
to Mr. Rubus. He made
You want
his
me to
ruling
base it on the
to
contract?
move forward on the vote, so that's
Yeah.
what needs
You're
to
All
be
right,
going
done.
to
thank you,
forward on
everybody.
the vote to remove it?
No.
Member Balich, I appreciate your efforts. Very worthy, but the state's attorney has advised on where we're at. Yeah. Member Butler, go ahead if you have a item to speak on. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find your. Go ahead.
Just to clarify the words, could maybe if Mr. Balich wanted to make a motion to put the project on hold for 6 months on the transportation plan, would that not be too close to taking it off, just to put it on hold? I mean, the vote's going to happen. I mean,
Let me do what Dan said.
Yep, all right. Go ahead, Member Balich.
I'm going to change my amendment to putting 143rd Street on hold for 6 months.
Same thing, you just changed the
Yeah,
word.
yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
taking it off.
Yeah, Member Oxley, please speak. And then, guys, I do think we're at a point where we're going to have to make a vote.
Okay,
on this.
I made the second to that motion. First and foremost, I didn't know we put a timeline in discussion, because that to me is disgusting. We need to hear from the
Well, the
record.
meeting's supposed to take an hour,
Excuse me, I was speaking. Thank you.
because we got a
We-
meeting scheduled at
Are you
11.
done? I don't care when there's a meeting
Excuse
scheduled.
me.
If we're
Excuse me.
going to discuss something in full length, then we're not, why bother? And where's the time limit? There is no time
This
limit.
project has been discussed for hours upon hours upon hours upon hours.
So what? What do you want me to do about that? We're going to discuss it until we get a full disclosure, full understanding of it. You're not going to sit here and tell me what I can discuss and there's a time limit on, because I'm not going to put up with that. I'm sorry.
I didn't say there was a time limit.
Yes, you did.
I said we've talked for an hour and a half. That's factual.
Excuse me, everybody, please. Thank you, please.
Thank you, Chair Russ.
Okay, Member Berkowitz had something
thank-
to share, please.
Thank you. I'm not a member of this committee, but I've attended these meetings for years, the entire time I've been on the county board, even when I'm not sitting on the committee. But I want to just say that I'm really shocked and saddened, and shame on the county board members that voted against having the representatives here from Homer Glen, from giving them the opportunity to come up and share their concerns. They represent their constituents. They are elected. They've taken time out of their day to be here today. And you have taken a vote against giving them their voice. That's not very considerate. It doesn't acknowledge their impact and what their stature in the community. I'm very, very disappointed by that. This is not the first time it has happened, and I really hope this board changes its attitude. And I'm not saying every member. We know who the votes are cast. It's in the record. It'll be reflected in the minutes. And I ask every one of you, we've had issues with time in other meetings as well. Land use is one of them because I was on that committee. We are elected to be here to do our jobs, and sometimes we need to take a little more time. And we don't have the answers. We are supposed to be working with our constituents, with the municipalities, with the townships, with the villages. This is our job. So I'm very disappointed, and I hope in the future we will think a little bit longer about how did we get here? And how are we supposed to represent our constituents? Thank you.
Thank you, Member Berkowitz. Member Freeman, please.
I just have to say, I feel like I've been called out and I need to speak to that. I wanted to just say that sometimes you know that they are going to be opposed. They have already spoken numerous times. I have heard, I've got it in my notes because I take very good notes. I'm sorry, I'm speaking. And I have heard from Mr. Balich numerous times. This vote did not go lightly. And I have a feeling I know how they were going to tell me they were opposed. And Mr. Balich has confirmed it many times sitting up here. So if you want to call someone out, I just think that there's a time and place for everything. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so I do believe we have a motion and a second on the floor to vote on this transportation improvement plan. I know that this is a high heated topic, so thank you for everybody for respectfully voicing your side of the issue. So if I could get a roll call, please. Yes, it's a motion to approve adopt the Will County fiscal year 2026 to 2031 Transportation Improvement Program. I believe there was a motion and a second earlier. Was it you and Micah? Motion and a second, and then I think yeah, but there was. Well, the state's attorney said that motion was not a valid motion. Okay, Member Balich, go ahead.
I make a motion to disagree with the state's attorney's opinion.
Motion and a second was made, there was discussion.
Well, I'm amending it. Excuse me. I make a motion to
Thanks.
amend my motion to disagree.
All right,
with the
Member
state's
Balich, we've been
attorney's
told
opinion.
that we cannot make another motion on the item. I'm going to
What
respect
about
the state's
disagreeing with the
attorney's.
State's attorney's opinion.
I'm going to take the state's attorney's agreement. Excuse me, guys. Excuse me, please. This is very difficult. It's more difficult when we talk over each other. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to adopt the fiscal year 2026 to 2031 Will County Transportation Improvement Plan. Can I get a roll call, please?
We didn't, I just made a motion to amend that motion to disagree with the state's attorney's opinion. And did we get a second on it? I don't know. No. Okay, so.
No. Yeah, it dies. Hickey. Okay, great. Great. Okay, we're going to put Sandy on. Okay, if you could proceed with the roll call vote on approving the transportation improvement plan.
Okay. Balich,
No.
Freeman,
Yes.
Hickey,
Yes.
Oxley,
No.
Winfrey, Revis.
Yes.
Motion passes.